So, fellow Agilists, welcome to the latest installment of the Virtually Agile videocast. This series will share conversations with Agile thought leaders as well as amplifying newer voices. And today's guest is one of those newer voices. He volunteered to be involved with the show himself when I metaphorically and physically blew my Viking horn calling for new guests. And this is my Viking horn. Doesn't make a sound, unfortunately, because I drink from it rather than actually make noise from it. Anyway, today I have with me Jorge Luis Castro. I can't remember how to pronounce your last name. I'm so sorry.
Toribio.
Toribio. This is my bad Spanish. Jorge, welcome to the show. ¿Cómo estás hoy?
Estoy muy bien.
Estoy muy bien.
I'm really fine. I'm really good. Thank you very much for the invitation, Chris. I really appreciate it. I follow you since a while. I think you are doing an awesome work in the community, sharing your retrospective and sharing your meetups and so forth. So I follow you and I admire your work. So thank you very much for the invitation.
No problem. And I'm glad that what I'm sharing is useful to the people that consume it. So
Yeah, absolutely.
for those of you or those of us following on the show that may be less familiar with who you are, Jorge, please tell us about yourself. What are you passionate about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, I'm from Peru, from Lima, Peru, in South America, and I'm working as an agile coach, also as a DevOps program manager and QA manager. And my passion is agile. I think that agile is maybe most of the best way to do business nowadays, I think. And also, I am a tech guy. I love DevOps and IT. I think that is my word.
Very nice. So you are a tech guy. You're passionate about agile. You believe it's the best way to do things these days. I also understand you're very much an active speaker on the conference and meetup circuit. So what is it that keeps you sharing your knowledge and your learnings from your work with everyone else, with the others in the wider community?
I think in that part, Chris, I think you and me has that in common, right? Because you are doing this because you want to share knowledge, you want to, help people, right? Maybe that other consultants that are facing some problems in terms of building new ways of working, agile, DevOps, and so forth. So that is the reason that I do this, right? I think that sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. So I like sharing because I think that is the best ways to make a better world. So each time that I have the chance to share with some communities, in Africa, in South America, in whatever, in UK, right now, it's awesome, right? I think it's a must do for any professional, to share what they are learning in their businesses. So, yeah.
Well, keep it up. Keep up the good work. Love that sharing is caring phrase, concept. Big believer in that myself. From my perspective, the reason that I do it, the reason that I share my learnings, my observations, the things that I found useful, is because I believe in that neurodiversity. I believe in helping others, and actually, the reason I share is because I want others to do the same. People to share with me, I will learn from them just as much as they from me. I'm a big believer in that as a general
Yeah,
principle. That neurodiversity helps us get innovation, better ways of doing
absolutely.
things, continuous improvement. So yeah,
Yeah.
I like that we're both aligned in that respect.
Yeah.
So keep it
You know,
keep up
you
the
know,
good. Go ahead.
yeah, something that is awesome about what we are doing right now is, for example, when I had a chance to present some conversation or be a speaker in some event, uh, if only one people contact me and say, hey Jorge, what you share in that event helped me a lot. I'm putting that in practice and it was very useful for me. Thank you very much for that. I think that is the best the best gift that someone can give you, right? This kind of, okay, I do something that is helping someone. So that is great.
Sure, and actually, what you've said there very much aligns to my belief about things. There are people who have spoken to me about getting themselves more active in speaking or sharing content or blogging or whatever that may be, and they say, but I'm not sure if my voice will be useful. So, well, my personal view on that is, as you said, if even one person finds it useful, if it challenges even one person to think a little bit differently, then to me, the content that I've put out there, whatever I've shared, has served a purpose. It doesn't necessarily have to
Yeah,
resonate with everyone. It doesn't have to perhaps get hundreds and thousands of likes or whatever it may be. But if it's influenced one person to think a little bit differently, then for me, it's
yeah,
been of value. And as you say, you get those messages back from someone saying, "Hey, really liked what you put out there," or "Thank you for doing this," or "This has inspired me to try
yeah,
new
yeah.
things." That to me is the gift alone, the reward for putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add something more, and I'm from South America. I'm from South America, and I think that when working here in South America, I met a lot of very smart guys. Very people, very smart, and when I ask them, hey, why don't you share what you are doing in terms of continuous integration, DevOps, cloud transformation, and so forth? You should share this with the community, right? That is something great. And they told me the same, right? No, but it's not so good, or people people is not going to care about it, something like that, right? So I think something that is quite important is first you need to believe in what you're doing, right? It's awesome, right?
Mhm.
Each person has a style, to share something, to research something, and so forth. So I hope that this kind of conversation, this kind of meetups can help others to start sharing, what they are
Mm.
doing.
Well, this is another reason for the or me asking for newer voices to be amplified. I was actually inspired by the works of some other people I've seen out in the wider agile industry. Scott
Yeah.
Seavright, who led the Agile 20 or was the festival pirate, I believe, for the Agile 20 Reflect Festival. He has been trying to put a call out there to say, hey, let's try and promote more diversity. Let's get more newer voices speaking at events, because if you are honest with yourself and looked at the the, the big virtual conferences out there, often you see the same speakers attending, the
Yeah.
same keynote speakers, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But at the same time, it does mean that I guess there are newer voices that don't have as much opportunity to share some of the great works they're doing. So I was inspired by the challenge set forth by someone else, and that's why every episode of this, or sorry, every season of the Virtually Agile videocast features four people that are more established thought leaders as well as
Awesome.
four newer voices.
Yeah.
And that's me doing my part as much as I can to, I guess, share, as I said, the great work that those people are doing. Give them that opportunity to shout about what they've learned about what experiences they have.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that, Chris.
No problem. So a topic that I was keen to speak with you about, because again, I think it resonates with both you and I and our style of coaching of doing things, and it's all around gamification and
Yeah.
having fun in the workplace. Anyone that knows any of my stuff, they know I'm a big believer in fun in the workplace, whether that's creating immersive retrospective themed sessions, whether that's having a bit of silly nonsense time before a meeting, whether it's me putting on an outfit and dressing up, or whatever that may be. I'm a big believer in that, enjoying work, because I think people that enjoy their work are more likely to produce better results. They're more
Yeah.
engaged. They may stay at a company longer. And I know you have done a number of talks around game driven development, and I guess the hashtag continuous fun, not continuous deployment, not continuous integration, continuous fun, which I think is just brilliant.
Yeah.
So tell me more, Jorge,
Thank you.
about game driven development, and what's it about and what benefits do you believe it brings?
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. Well, let me share with you maybe the beginning of this, right?
Yeah,
So
please.
as I said, I am a DevOps guy. I think I combine my work with Agile and DevOps with all my clients in all my work. And as you said, right, when you work in this DevOps world, you learn about a lot about continuous integration, continuous deployment, continuous testing, continuous monitoring, and all the continuous that you can imagine. But what about people?
Yeah.
What about people, right? At the end, we are we are the developers, we are the testers, we are the project managers, the scrum master, whatever, that are doing the job, right? The guys that need to change the behavior to adapt something new. And that's my point. It first, the continuous fun is, something like, okay, we have all these continuous stuff. Why about people, right? And that is why this idea born, right? Continuous fun. Continuous fun is we are going to enable DevOps thinking on people and all the fun that we can, provoke in those people, right? That are working in DevOps teams and Agile teams. So that is the idea, the first idea. Um, Basically, something that I found very useful for have fun in the work is gamification. You know, so this idea of continuous fun and GDD, game driven development, is about shift left gamification. Shift left. So while you are creating this strategy to build DevOps ways of working, to build agile ways of working, you are designing your teams. You are going to use Scrum, and you are going to create your pipeline and so forth. While you are designing the strategy, you need to move gamification shift left. So from the beginning, my recommendation is try to design a game so people can get involved, playing and building new ways of working. You
Okay.
know, so that is the main idea of GDD.
Okay. So what I loved about your description there about, I guess, about the genesis of where this came from, where game driven development came from, was the focus on people first. Now, I talk about this all the time. I'm a big believer in being people first, to the point that I lead a squad of transformation, my transformation squad, and our motto
Oh,
is being people first, and our logo is Groot, baby Groot. I've got a baby Groot right here.
yeah,
And so that's like my totem. It reminds me to be people first, and I like that you have a similar style. Be people first, focus on their needs, creating an environment that's fun for them. And I guess the question I have that led from your description there is, could you give me an example, or please give me an example of how building in that gamification and shifting it left has helped a team
yeah,
with
absolutely.
embracing this new ways of working.
Yeah, absolutely. So, for example, some time ago, I was working for a telecommunication company from US. So we were in the stage to build. Oh, sorry, something happened. I think. Oh, sorry, my bad. Okay. No, well, sorry. Again, some time ago, I was working in a telecommunication company. So the challenge was this, right? We had a lot of traditional teams, right? Silos and all the stuff, right? That you know. So one day, the company decided to move to agile, move to DevOps and cloud transformation. So it was a great change for us, right? Imagine that, right? Since, for example, right, since tomorrow we need to apply agile thing, we need to do DevOps and so forth. So at that moment, the company has had a lot of tooling, had a lot of frameworks, a lot of trainings, academies, and so forth. But in that moment, we decided to, hey, we need to really, really build something that people can follow, that people can engage, right? Because at the end, it's not about tooling, it's not about putting the courses, the training, the certification, and so forth. It's about people changing behaviors
Mhm.
at the end, right? So in my case, what we decided is okay, since the beginning, we created this game of testing thing, right? Which was a game. So in that game, each development team participate, right? Developers, testers participate. This game was about to create continuous testing in the pipeline. So for example, right, if you create some unit tests that run in the pipeline, you create automated tests and so forth, you can compete in the game, those tests, running those tests in the pipeline and getting points in terms of your finding bugs, break some builds, and get feedback and so forth. So you get points, right? So you have more than, in the experience, we had more than 60 teams playing the game at the same time since the beginning. So when we started this, the message was, hey, the message was, we are not going to adopt agile thing or DevOps. We are going to play a game.
Okay.
That was the message, right?
Right.
The game is game of testing. We have the pipeline. Those are the rules, right? You're going to get points if you add unit tests, integration tests, and so forth. If you create some innovation stuff, you're going to get points. If you share your knowledge with different teams over the world, you're going to get points, and so forth. So that was our idea. And while people play the game, they were learning agile, they were learning DevOps. So that is why we move gamification to the left since the beginning, since the strategy.
Sure. Now, what's interesting about that is the fact that you removed agile almost from the equation. You just said, "Hey, we're not doing an agile transformation. We're not teaching people agile. We're going to play a game, and the outcome behind the game is you'll learn or embed agility principles, practices, mindsets. I guess this is my assumption
Yeah.
into the way that the teams are working. So the starting point wasn't, hey, you guys are going to become agile. And what I like about that is that my observation over the years from my own working experience and from what I've seen from others in the industry is that people have been through one agile transformation, two agile transformations, three maybe in their working lives, possibly more. Who knows if they've been unlucky? Lots of versions of it, and they might have had a bad experience with that agile transformation. They
Yeah.
might think of agile as a bad word. They might think of agile, oh, it's just another agile transformation, and pay lip service to it. Whereas what you did there is took agile from the equation and said, hey, we're going to play a game. We're going to play a game, guys. And
Yeah. That's the
that was the
idea.
outcome. We're going to play a game first. And the outcome behind it was better or more learning about Agile. Now, what I'm keen
Yeah.
about from that is what were the outcomes? What were the outcomes of playing that game? You had a point system. What did it cause in terms of tangible benefit for the company that you were working with?
Yeah, at the beginning, before launching all this strategy of gamification and so forth, our first goal was okay, why, right? Start with why.
Mhm.
Why we are doing this? What are the value for the company, for the people? So, for example, we took some numbers, right, in terms of lead time, in terms of cycle time, in terms of time to market, NPS of our developers, NPS of our testers, NPS of our product owners, and so forth. So we took those numbers before starting the game, right? So after we ran the game, I think for 6 months, more or less, we took the numbers again. We get information about the numbers again, and we improve in our lead time, we improve in our flow efficiency, we improve in our time to market as well. So, for example, let me give you two examples. For example, right before the game, our regression testing cycle took more or less 3 weeks. 3 weeks of regression, which
Okay.
basically because all the work was manually. That is the reason.
Sure.
After the game, the regression only took 3 days.
Okay.
That's a
So
benefit, right?
sure.
Playing. And the other one is about the NPS, right? So before the game, before the game, the developers, they didn't like too much testers, and testers didn't like too much developers.
Sure.
But
Okay.
yeah, because the silos, right? Because the
Yeah.
silos.
Because
But
they're
after
throwing
the game,
grenades over the fence at each other. You do
yeah,
your part,
exactly.
I'll do my part.
But in the game, if you play soccer or another sport,
Hmm.
no matter if you are my team player, maybe I don't like you too much, but we are in the team, right? We need
Yeah,
to play together. So that happened, right? After the game, the NPS from about developers and testers improved, right? So it was a team building. So that was something really nice as well.
sure. Now, I'm keen to understand, was there any, I guess, negatives observed from doing this? Was there any people trying to game the game in terms of, cheating the game just to score more
Yeah.
points and things like that, moving against maybe the outcome you were looking for, which was team building and doing it properly. But my concern, I guess, is, and maybe the concern of others as well when they input these sorts of approaches, is that someone will just learn how the game works. You put a metric in place like a number of points, and people will try and hit that number of points no matter what, even if it contravenes the intent. So was any of that observed, or?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, that was something that happened to us. It happened, but For that scenario, basically we did two things, right? The first one was we create OKRs, but OKRs not only for one team or OKRs for Peru organization. No, we try to create OKRs for for to try to have OKR for more than one team, right? For maybe two teams, four teams, and four teams. So in that way, you play, but not only for your own, right? You play for a group of teams. That was something great that helped this with this problem. And the other thing was about I don't know if you watch this movie Paid Forward. Have you
Yes, I
seen that
have. Yeah,
movie?
yeah.
Yeah.
The Haley
We
Joel Osment, right? It's a film from a while ago.
Yeah, it's about this child,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. We implemented the pay IT forward in this game, which is
Okay.
basically okay. Um, we create some kind of innovation thing, right? Innovation program, and we say, okay, we have this business challenge, right? I don't know. For example, we need to move this application to the cloud. We need to change this process internally and so forth, right? As part of DevOps and Agile transformation. So we say, okay, but for this goal, we need people from Peru, people from India, people from UK, people from Germany. That's the rule. That's the only rule. Okay, so they play the game working together, and then the paid forward. So now, guys, you need to go through the organization, right? Check the teams that are facing the same problem, and share what you are learning. Share what you create.
Mm.
And the next rule is you need to do it for two things more.
Okay.
That's a rule, right? Paid forward, right? So imagine that. That was quite awesome.
Yeah, it
So so
sounds like a really great concept to build in that culture of sharing learnings with one another. I'm a big believer in. I don't tend to use fail fast as a term. I know that's big in the agile world. Fail fast. My observation and experience with that term is that people don't like to fail. They don't like the word failure. Failure is still stigmatized. So
yeah,
instead, especially with certain demographics, certain more senior people in particular, they don't like the word failure. So I instead encourage learn fast, learn often, and that sounds to me like one example of a method that companies can adopt in order to help one another learn more by sharing your learnings and then paying it forward to the
paid
next two
forward.
teams, next two teams.
Yes, yes. That was the idea.
Great, okay, really interesting stuff. Game driven development. I'll have to look into how the companies I work with might be able to adopt such principles. My style is I tend to use gamification in terms of teaching and experiential learning. So I run the Agile Arcades, and it's more about agile games from a teaching perspective, for the
Yeah,
purpose of engaging people in the content and the immersive experience of learning, rather than just being exposed to passive slide decks or quizzes at the end and things like that. But rather, I want them to live and breathe how it feels to be in a certain scenario, and then reflect on how that might apply to their working lives and how they could do things differently. So that's where
yeah,
I tend to use games. I'm keen to talk to you about Agile in education. I saw you did a bit of a talk about that, and I love the quote from the Jesuits, which is "Get them young, and the possibilities are endless." So obviously, education, younger people, building in agile principles, in particular, learning quickly and destigmatizing failure, I think could do wonders for children growing up. If they were
yeah.
growing up thinking, well, I want to experiment, I want to learn from it, I'm not going to see something not going well as a failure, but instead a learning opportunity. So tell me more about agile in education and your involvement in it.
Yeah, sure, sure. Thank you. I think I think in the same way that you said, right? There is a global movement about it. I didn't know about it. Well, I know about. I read some books about agile in education and so forth, but actually there are a lot of groups that are moving that new mindset, right?
Mm,
This agile in education. For example, in US you have agile in education group, which is a huge group with a lot of team members doing great stuff, right? And I think, well, sorry, regarding what they told me, there are groups also in UK and Europe and so forth. That's something that is great, right? So basically, participating in some meetups, in some events. Some guys from that group contact me, and they told me, "Hey, Jorge, do you want to, present your ideas in our events in Agile Education?" So, in the same way that you do, right? For example, as a consultant, as an agile coach, I use games to teach Kanban, to teach agile, to teach DevOps as well. So the coin game, those kind of games, I use them. So basically, I present that information in my talk with them. I told them that uh, because I'm not a teacher. I'm not a teacher. I am a consultant. But when I teach something to to my clients, Kanban, Agile, DevOps, whatever, I try to use Agile, right? For example, right, as you said, experimentation, right? So the best way to do agile or to is live agile, right?
Mhm.
Live agile with a real project. Okay, tell me what is your project. Tell me what is your business needs. Okay, let's do agile, right? Who is your product? Let's select a product owner. Let's select a team, right? Create a backlog, run some sprints and so forth. So I think that is something really great. And I'm really happy about it because I think nowadays education needs to change, right? We are in the age of data, we are in the age of COVID, unfortunately.
Mhm.
But in the same way that all the business is changing, I think education needs to change, and I think Agile is going to help education, to be more productive, to create more, open global markets as well.
Mm.
So I think that is something great.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing how agile can be more broadly applied to education and learning. As you mentioned, there's companies out there leading the charge in that vein. I think there's Edu Scrum is a company I think that operates in UK and
Yeah.
Europe. I think I'm due to be speaking to a couple of people out in the US. They've got a company called or a program called Leaf LEAF, which is around uh, agile principles in education as well, and they'll be future guests of the show. So I'm really keen to see how this develops. And as I said, I think the earlier you can embed some of these principles, practices, and mindsets, the more they'll take hold. And I actually think one of the, interestingly, the perhaps non-business focused side of benefits
Yeah.
embedding agile in early would probably be less mental health challenges, because I think if you've got teenagers growing up having learned about agile, learned about experimentation, embracing those things as learning opportunities rather than, oh god, I've failed about this or got this pressure about that, I think they'd probably be in better shape from a mental health perspective as well.
Yeah, yeah. So, for example, in my experience and regarding what Agile in education people told me in the event, for example, right, retrospective, which is something really powerful, right?
Mhm.
Imagine applying retrospective in real education.
Yeah.
So, for example, right, I don't know, each 2 weeks after you develop a topic with your students, you do some experiments and so forth. You can have a time to check. Hey guys, did we go well or not?
Yeah.
Right? What need to change about it? That's great, right? So, for example, right, learning in iterations.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, Take a topic in iteration, put it in practice, learn about it, and then do it for a new topic.
Mm.
That's something really powerful, right?
What's interesting about education, if I reflect on my own experiences with it when I was younger, you work in term times, or your year is split up into semesters or terms,
Yeah,
and you just learn a standardized curriculum in a standardized way, and there's not much tailoring based on your own personal situation or based on reflection from perhaps how much or how little the students are getting from that experience. So if there was this opportunity to iterate frequency based on learnings, hey, did that last 2 weeks work for you? What could we do better next time? That sort of thing. I think, yeah, you'd end up with a better engaging learning experience for those involved.
yeah,
Right,
yeah.
so I'm very keen to talk to you about virtual you mentioned the pandemic. You mentioned
Yeah.
obviously it's a bit of a bad time, but there have been lots of learnings from these COVID times, and I'm keen to hear from your experience. You're working in agility. What's the most important thing, or the one piece of advice you'd give to others that you feel has helped you enable those you work with to be agile in this virtual world? Is there any techniques? Is there any tools? Is there anything you'd love to share?
I think first turn on your cameras.
Yeah. Okay.
I think yeah, because for example, right now, right? Right now, I'm seeing you. I know I see your face. If you are smiling, or maybe if you have some doubt about what I'm saying and so forth. I think that is something powerful,
Mhm.
right? When you see people expressions. Unfortunately, in this virtual environment, when people don't turn on the cameras, you don't see faces. You only see JC or CS. Like that. That's it, right? But what about the human interaction, right? So
Yeah.
I think first advice is turn on your cameras. I agree that maybe there are some people that don't 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 want to do that, and that's okay. But you as an agile coach, maybe you can teach, you can tell them what is the benefit of that, little by little. But that is a first recommendation. Second one is take advantage of all these amazing tooling that we have, right? So we have Mural, Miro, and all the stuff, right? That we find in the market. Those are very nice tools that you can use, right? So if you ask me, in the old days when I had to prepare or when I had to do a workshop about Agile, I needed to carry a lot of papers, pencils, which
Yep.
with a lot of full
Post-it notes and Sharpies and
yeah,
all sorts of
sure.
materials. Yeah.
Yeah, but nowadays it's quite simple, right? I
Yeah.
open a Miro, I create the workshop, and that's it, right? I think it's simple
Mhm.
nowadays, right? It's simple. But of course, you need to take advantage of those tools, right?
Yeah.
And also Zoom and so forth. And my third advice is about please don't forget the people,
Yeah.
right? Unfortunately, in those times, all these digitalized, tooling and so forth. But what about one-to-ones?
Mhm.
What about that? Well, right? What about taking a time to have a conversation with your team members if you're a leader, right? And have a normal discussion about life, about what are the expectations to grow, career development, and so forth. Please don't forget that, right? People is going to believe more in your words, in your strategy, if you contact them, but not only in the work level, also in another level. So that is my third recommendation. Don't forget about people and one-to-ones and so forth, and feedback.
Great recommendation. Yeah. For me, the personal interaction piece is so key. We've lost the ability to just walk over to someone, tap them on the shoulder, say, "Hey, do you want to go for a coffee and have a chat on the way there?" Or you meet up at the water cooler, or you have a chat on the way to a meeting room together. We've lost all those things, so we lose some of that personal interaction, and it's why I am a huge advocate in making time in every meeting for personal interaction. That first 5 minutes, whether it's an icebreaker question, something random, ask that of your people, and then make time for personal interaction. Don't forget about it. Otherwise, people just go meeting to meeting to meeting. It's just work, 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 and people you lose that connection. And
Yeah.
especially so if people aren't on camera as well. If you can't see someone face to face, they're basically just a set of initials behind a screen. They're an avatar. They're like and it can be easier to depersonalize them and just think of that name on a screen rather than a beating heart behind a laptop, which is actually who they really are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Last question, Jorge, and it's my favorite one of all. So obviously, I do these retrospectives. I do a new one every week, and this is your opportunity to add a new retrospective to my backlog. So, if you could add any themed retro to my backlog, what would it be?
Well, that is a hard question because you have a lot.
I do. I've got
Yeah, you have a lot.
40 something now. Yeah,
Yeah, I
growing
think you
list.
have Pokemon. I think right. You have
Pokemon's done. Yeah, Pokemon's done.
yeah, stuff that I like. So, um, what about something about Peru and their culture?
I could do
You
something
know?
about Peru. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've
Machu
always wanted.
Picchu,
I've always wanted to
Incas.
go to. I was planning to go to the Inca Trail last year, but unfortunately, COVID prevented my trip.
Yeah.
So maybe I could do something on the Aztec gods, like yeah, because I've done a bit of I've helped someone do a bit of a Greek god Olympian themed one. There's like a Roman god one. There's all sorts. My mind's going already. So yeah, I can do something Peruvian or Aztec themed. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be
I'll
great.
add it to the backlog.
Sorry?
I'll add it to the backlog.
Great, great, awesome. In Peru, you have Incas, you have the Tawantinsuyo, this culture that is the sun is the god, and so
Mhm.
forth. So
Yeah.
you have very nice material here.
Well, I might have to reach out to you for a bit of a personal consult just to make
Yeah.
sure that the content is right there. But yeah, really great to have you on the show today on the Virtually Agile videocast, Jorge. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for sharing your insights, your learnings, all things about game-driven development, and most importantly, that clear message that came out a lot through the things you were saying. That focus on the human side, the personal interaction, and making things enjoyable for people. So, really wonderful message to leave on, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
Been a pleasure, Jorge. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Take care.